こいつと一緒に行く。
Otome games cover a variety of eras, from the modern New York, crossed with Los Angeles and Cupid Parasite, to the classic Japanese history of Bairushana. But there exists one Otome game out there that is said to defy that logic, and that's Norn9 Var Commons, a title originally released for the PS Vita, but now with a Nintendo Switch port and a retranslation by none other than Ann Lee, a prominent translator. Before we get into the video, we'd like to thank our Patreon supporters for making this possible. Please take a second to check out patreon.com/noisypixel to support independent game journalism.
そんな大きな声出さなくても。
嘘つけ。思いっきりこいつ誰だっけって顔してたじゃね。今なんかムッカ。
Norn9 begins the story with Sarada Suzuhara, a child prodigy who recently won an award from Japan's prime minister thanks to his outstanding ability. Just saying, I think he and Senku from Dr. Stone would get along well. One day, while on a school field trip, he hears a mysterious song, wanders from his class, and blacks out. But when he comes to his senses, he is suddenly in 1919 during Taisho-era Japan. After meeting a strange girl who promises to help him get home, both of them board the titular Norn ship, a spherical-like structure that floats in the sky, defying all manner of scientific concepts while at the same time looking like it came straight out of the sci-fi books of Star Wars. Inside that ship are special humans with abilities known as espers, who are dispatched by an organization known as the World to maintain world peace. The prologue and its first chapters are very confusing. Honestly, so many questions came to mind, but the elephant in the room is Sarada. First, you get an elaborate prologue with him as the protagonist. Still, once you're into a route, he is instantly benched as a random NPC, hardly appearing in any other chapters henceforth. Once you've gone through the first chapter, you'll be asked to choose one of the three girls, and each of them will have 3 love interests as options. It is a bit more unique than other typical games of this ilk. I found the system very similar to the worlds in Amnesia, which dispenses the use of a flowchart. Furthermore, their interesting point is that the Nintendo Switch version enables an automatic quick save whenever you reach a new chapter or choice, which is definitely a welcome addition. However, the prologue is among the most confusing ones I've seen in an Otome. Honestly, so many questions come to mind, but the biggest thing is Sarada. He only appears for the prologue, and then from chapter 2 onward, it's almost as if he didn't exist unless you pick a particular route. Furthermore, you're left with just questioning the overall premise of the whole narrative. The artwork and soundtrack of Norn9 are certainly some of the biggest strengths. Still, the soundtrack suffers from the odd issue of sounding too loud, and the voice acting is muffled by it due to poor mixing. As a result, some characters felt extremely soft-spoken unless I had the BGM music to the lowest possible and the voices on maximum. It seems like the developers are aware of this issue because by default, the BGM volume is at 30% and the voice volume is at 80%. One of the weaker points of the narrative that I thought Norn9 would have was with its 9 love interests. As usually, the more there are, the shorter the story of each has to be, but Norn9 Var Commons has a trick up its sleeve. Generally, from what I've seen, the stories in Otome games are usually one big plot with a set number of parallels, meaning one love interest's ending isn't generally connected to what happens in another. I'll do my best to explain Norn9's route and how they're intricately connected, directly and indirectly. However, it makes you try and play all 9 routes, as you won't understand the bigger picture. Furthermore, there's also a recommended route order of which you should start first. While there's no penalty for going rogue and trying a route that's besides the recommended, I'd still think that you should follow it, primarily due to the contents of the endings. I would be very bothered with myself if I didn't mention this, but I have to talk about the font. Comparing the Vita version, you can see that the white inside strokes was also added to the characters, and while that doesn't fix a problem the Vita version had with window opacity, it does feel like a solve one problem, get 2 others sort of situation, because the left-handed margin of the first line isn't consistent with the margin of the subsequent lines, which just looks odd in my view. Also, the log is weirdly formatted. While on Vita you had the individual text boxes, the entire log is just crammed into this one big wall of text, and you have to select a specific line you would like to rewind. That being said, the script did see some significant retranslations thanks to the prominent translator Ann Lee, and many typos I've seen in the PS Vita release are gone. Still, if I'm being sincere, this awkward font spacing doesn't do it any favors. By viewing certain events and routes and obtaining any endings, you'll earn points which can be exchanged at the Norn9 shop for side stories and additional illustrations. There is another mode called Norn9 Quest, which is hard to describe. First, you'll choose a character with 3 other characters chosen at at the drop of a hat. Next, you'll have 3 events with the enemy characters. You'll either obtain or lose points at the end. Yes, that's it. And I have no idea what the heck is the point of this, because aside from selecting a character, just how many points you get is random. You can even end up losing points from this, so I wouldn't advise going anywhere near this mode unless you're content with that. Norn9 Common's prologue is a bit rocky with introducing the narrative and suffers from several plot holes. However, it still manages to pull you in with its crazy plot twists and overall sci-fi presentation. This, combined with its clever tactic to tempt you into clearing every single route for each character, is possibly one of the most clever written stories I've seen thus far. I can't wait until the last era fan disc to complete this extraordinary narrative. Noisy Pixel is giving Norn9 Var Commons an 8 out of 10. Thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth and subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
Noisy Pixel.